Yo guys, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a quick sort of review on both the books Red Rising and Golden Sun, books 1 and 2 of the Red Rising saga, and why exactly this series might be a new favorite of mine, and was definitely some of my favorite reads of the year 2023, which is now behind us. I meant to do this video in December over my Christmas vacation, but I had my girlfriend in town, and the video kind of got away from me, and then I ended up getting sick. Now, I'm still getting over being sick, but I'm good enough to make a video, and I have this day off here, so we are going to be doing just that. If you guys do go on to enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already, because I would greatly appreciate it. And definitely check out the official Discord server, which will be in the description below. And without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so getting into it, what is Red Rising? First of all, for those of you who don't know, Red Rising is about this dude. His name is Darrow, and he's essentially a slave, and the slaves are called Reds. And this world that they live in, there's like a social hierarchy where Reds are the lowest of the low. It's a caste system. And at the very top are the Golds. And so the story takes place on Mars. The planet Mars, humanity has rebelled against Earth. Democracy's lame. And so they install like basically a new empire, where they're taking like the Roman Empire, the Greek Empire, and sort of like mixing the two. There's a lot of Greek and Roman mythology references and stuff. So you got like emperors and stuff like that. And it's on Mars, and they basically conquer the galaxy. So there's like, a caste system. So the Reds have been led to believe that when on Mars, they're like mining and stuff. And they've been led to believe that all of their hundreds of years of toiling has been for the better, and that they're terraforming the planet so that the people who are on Earth still can like come over, and have a place to escape to, and so that their future generations can live comfortably. And so things happen. We find out that Darrow and his fellow Reds been toiling away for nothing, because this perfect world, say perfect loosely, has already been created hundreds of years ago. And, the Empire flourishes. They're underground on Mars, but above ground, there's, a sprawling city there where the Golds live lavishly. And, people have already escaped Earth, and all throughout the solar system, they're living lavishly. But the Reds, specifically what they call the Low Reds, don't know this, and they've been tricked. They're being made to stay low. And so, what the story is about is there's like a terrorist, almost like a freedom fighter group called the Sons of Ares, which I'm going to get into too much of how Darrow comes to find this stuff out, because for those of you who haven't read it, it's pretty huge. So definitely read it. It all happens within like the first few chapters. It's awesome. So I don't want to ruin it for you just yet. Basically, Darrow joins a freedom fighter group to become. He himself is to become a Gold, which normally isn't something you can just do because there's a lot of like genetic stuff also that comes into play. It's not just like a caste you're assigned at birth. It's like literally in your blood. So there's certain like biological features that Golds have versus Reds. So it's not just a title. It's like literally who you are. So he has to go through like almost like what I imagined as like a Captain America sort of treatment, where like Steve Rogers is like getting pumped up and he becomes Captain America. If you know Marvel Comics, whatever. That's sort of what happens to him. He has this grueling surgery to become a gold, infiltrate their system, and tear it down from within to allow the Reds to escape and, like, revolution. That is what the series overall is about. In this first book is a lot of setup, a lot of Darrow trying to learn the ways of these people, and there's also sort of like a Hunger Games-esque setting in this first book that I didn't vibe with completely, but it ended up being really cool. So, to elaborate more on that, what ends up happening is he has to go to like this school setting, pass these tests, and then there's like a selection process where they're put, like a bunch of these kids who are all trying to be someone are put into these groups within like a giant death game. There's like a sprawling wilderness, there's different home castles and stuff, and it's a giant brutal game of capture the flag. It's pretty much Hunger Games, but cooler in my opinion. Hunger Games is kind of whack. This is actually kind of dope. The book started off pretty, like the actual start of the book is awesome. Love the first few chapters. And then there, even when he's going like when he first joins the Freedom Fighters and goes through the surgery and stuff, there's even like a bit of like a cyberpunk kind of feel to it, which is awesome. I love the cyberpunk subgenre. We've even been playing cyberpunk recently, so there's definitely a lot of parallels there. Like it's pretty cool. And then we go into this more YA feeling, like Hunger Games setting, which not a fan of the weird like early 2010s cringy YA dystopian feel. That's not something that I like at all. So like your Divergent, your Hunger Games, like that stuff, it kind of makes me sick. I hate that stuff. And there were some like vibes from that, but it quickly became its own thing, and is way more brutal and violent and mature than Hunger Games and all that ever were. So it was really cool what Pierce Brown turned that into. So in order to sum up this first book without giving too much away, like I said, the first part of the book was awesome. I don't want to spoil the first part of the book just in case you haven't read it, because that blew me away, honestly. The first book, at the very beginning, and that whole section where he's in Mars, like underground and stuff, was ridiculous. Then it slowed down a little bit for me, but then once we kind of got into the groove of things, the weird Hunger Games death game setting became pretty bearable, and it was actually kind of cool. And the whole second half, there's like a big betrayal that happens like towards the end of the book ish, and everything after that was awesome and was honestly like I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. It was dope. And then up until the end, it's pedal to the metal. It's awesome. Definitely check out Red Rising. I ended up giving this book, all in all, I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. So yeah, but this is definitely what I've heard weakest in the series. And after reading the first 2, the second book is a huge upgrade from this first book. So yeah, definitely if you're not really vibing with this first book much, I think that moving forward, this first book is the most different from the rest, just because it has to use that setting to, I don't know, set stuff up, but like the rest of the series isn't that. So if this turns you away a little bit, just keep reading. It gets far better. Now, moving to the second book, Golden Sun. I was very excited going into this one, just because this is what I hear a lot of people talk about, that this is one of the best books in the series. This is some of people's favorite books of all time. Very excited to get into this one, and I read it, and I can confirm that it is a banger. One of my favorite books I read this year, honestly. It's amazing. To start things off, you're thrown into this battle sequence that's just pretty high octane. And I will say the beginning of this book is a little slow. You know, there's a big time jump between the first and second books. I believe it's like 8 years or 10 years or something like that. So characters are a little bit older, a little bit more mature. It doesn't feel as cringe as some of the parts in the first book were. They don't feel as juvenile, and it's angsty, but it doesn't feel like, I don't know, it doesn't feel as YA. Not that this first book was super YA, but there were definitely a lot of YA sort of themes to it that I picked up on. This second book isn't that. Uh, it's more mature overall. So there's this high octane big battle scene, which was okay. Like, it wasn't like my favorite part of the book by any means, but it was still, just throws you right into it and really sets the tone for the rest of the book. It's dark, it's gritty, it's just wild. Like, people are dying everywhere. It also gives you an idea of like how much more advanced this world is than you might think. Like, it almost has sort of a Star Wars feel, because they're on like these big star destroyers pretty much, and they're like fighting each other in the air or like in space, and there's there's space warfare, which wasn't something I was expecting from this series. And there's a little bit of like a military sci-fi fantasy kind of feel, which I'm here for. I'm a big fan of Bernard Cornwell, which is like military historical fiction, so definitely used to that kind of thing. And in space, I mean, that's kind of fire. So I keep having to backtrack here, but this first section of the second book, although what is happening is really fast, it definitely feels a little slow. It's build up to what, I mean, we're really in for in this second book. So this first section wasn't my favorite, but it was still cool. We get into, again, more of like a cyberpunk kind of feel to it, because there's a whole section where our main character is being escorted by mercenaries, and we go into like the really bad, like gritty district of, I think it was the moon, or it was either Mars or the moon. I'm pretty sure it was the moon though. You got your high district where all the politicians are, and like, the rich people are hanging out, but then you go into like the slums. There's a bunch of like crime and stuff, but it's all sci-fi backdrop, and that's really cool to me, is like that sort of, cyberpunk noir, dirty, gross kind of feel. I dig that a lot. And like, our main character meets with somebody, actually an old villain, in like a bar, and there's like a terrorist attack and stuff. All kind of like a really high octane section, with a really cool, vibe. And then we get this huge revelation, and then honestly, we're thrown into what is my favorite part of this entire book. So, without, again, giving too much away, because I do want this review to be relatively spoiler free. I know a lot, that's not something I focus on when I do my reviews. I just kind of talk about whatever I want to talk about the books. But for this review, I do want it to be relatively spoiler free. That being said, my favorite section of this book happens early on, honestly. There's like this giant gala, or like a ball, where all of the rich politicians and influential people are all gathered in one spot. And our main character is tasked by like the terrorist freedom fighters to bring a bomb in there and kill everybody. And as soon as he blows them up, then these bombs all across the universe, the galaxy, will start going off at important places, and they're going to start a revolution. And now, the main character, after that huge revelation happens, he's given like a newfound drive. He loses sort of the will to live, but he's given like a newfound drive as to like stay to his mission, pretty much. He's been living with these golds. He's becoming a gold, and he's sort of lost sight of his original mission and what exactly needed to be done. He's not here to have fun and live lavishly. He's a sleeper agent, pretty much, and it's time to, blow stuff up, kill some people, and send a message. That being said, he's made friends and connections with people that are golds, and he's not supposed to like these people, but he does. He cares for certain characters, and they care for him. Of course, they don't know he's actually a red, but that's what makes it so difficult, is because he has made these connections. And one of my favorite parts about these books is the romance. Honestly, if you guys know me, I'm a huge sucker for a good romance subplot. I despise romance books, but a good romance subplot is always something I'm here for, and I am a sucker for. I know some people don't care for romance in their books, like, at all. But that is something I'm always here for. I'm a big, I might not seem it, but, character shipping is something that I'm, low-key into. It can be kind of cringe. I get it. And I'm not one to, post about it and, do cringy fan art stuff. But whenever the author, writes a romance into the book and there's, these feelings, you can, feel it between two characters, I'm that's something that I hyper fixate on, and I'm oh my god, this needs to happen. I'm a big romance in my books kind of guy. Of course, like I said, if the book is a romance book, that's freaking lame. It has to be cool, has to just be a subplot. But I'm here for it. And the romance in this book is really well done. Main character and new chick, stuff happens. They have feelings. She was in the first book, which was sort of an unlikely romance, too, which was interesting. And with the context of his origins, there's also an important woman in his life from before, so he has, conflicting feelings, and it's a whole thing. It's more of an internal battle, at least starting out. And I thought that was really interesting as well. But yeah, the romance plays a bigger role in this book than it did in the first one. But the way it's done is really well. Because this chick, he had his chance with her and he blew it, but he wants her back. And she's with somebody else. And this becomes apparent at this giant, this gala. And rather than sticking to his mission, he does some extra stuff, and it ends up being a showdown, and it's freaking dope. He ends up having a duel with the guy that she's with, and this guy who she's with is somebody from the first book, and there's some bad blood happening, but we get a whole duel, and it is awesome. And this big duel leads into a whole can of worms that is the whole plot of this second book. It leads to a lot of people dying. And it leads to a lot of betrayal and everything. So without lingering on this one section of the book too long, although it is my favorite, what happens right after, big chase scene, a lot of death. Then cool stuff happens for the majority of the book. But the ending of this book had my jaw dropped. The ending of this book is insane because right when we thought we won, there is some Game of Thrones Red Wedding level stuff that happens at the very end. It reminded me a lot of the Red Wedding. So if you guys know what I'm talking about, dude, this second book is fantastic. Easy 5 out of 5 stars for me. And is in contention for the best book that I read during last year. Of course, I've went on record before and said that The Way of Kings was my favorite book of last year, which it was. Also, Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne is up there too. But this right here, this second book made it for me. fantastic book and easily in the top 3 there. Yeah, the ending was awesome. Like I said, if you guys are familiar with the Red Wedding, very similar situation. It is insane. I know most of this video has just been kind of me rambling on. And again, I've tried to keep it as spoiler-free as possible while still talking about some cool things that happen in these books. If I was able to convince you, definitely check out these books. You know, this first trilogy leads into something even better, because I've heard the second trilogy is definitely way darker, and it's also more of that sort of military fantasy kind of feel, which I'm here for. So it's going to be like, you know, space warfare, but like way darker than this first trilogy, which this first trilogy is already super dark. So yeah, I'm very excited to get further into this series, and when I do, it's gonna be one of my favorite series. I can already feel it. That being said, I haven't read the third book yet, which is like it's the final book of the trilogy, this first trilogy. I took a big break for reading at the end of the year there, to focus, you know, spending time with family, my girlfriend, for the holidays. But now, Christmas break is coming to a close, going back to school, and in fact, tomorrow I go back to school. And so, I'm going to be packing with me Morningstar. And hopefully, depending on how busy I am, honestly, because I probably will be busy with, like, new semester and everything, but whatever. I'm going to be trying to crush this book. It's the biggest book out of the 3. But I plan to read this within the week. I have to. It is the final book, and so much is writing on this book after the ending of that second one. So I'm extremely excited. These books are awesome, and you should definitely go check them out. That's going to be about it for the video. I appreciate you guys for checking it out. Sorry that my uploads have been kind of weird at the end of the year here. Just had a lot going on. So yeah. Hopefully we'll be getting into more uploads and stuff at the beginning of the year here. There was a lot of end-of-year videos that I was looking forward to doing, like wrap-ups and all that. Just never got around to doing it. So, you know, my end of 2023 wrap-up haul videos and, like, reviews and stuff, those are all kind of going to be spread out through January. So, you know, as we do in the month of January, this is going to be a month of reflection. A lot of people do their wrap-ups and stuff at the end of 2023, but we're going to spend this first month looking back on 2023. So stay tuned for those. I got a few things planned. So yeah. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.